Good afternoon, I'm Nick Altmeyer with linkinglewiscounty.com. Here this afternoon with Lewis County Manager Ryan Piche, and we're here for our monthly chat of what's going on in county government. We like to do this just before the board meeting every month to kind of give people an idea of what's coming up on the agenda with the Board of Legislators. So they'll be meeting tomorrow night, which is Tuesday, March 6th, 5 p.m. at the courthouse here in Lawville, second floor in the boardroom. At 3:30 p.m. there's going to be a presentation where JCC and Joel Alone at JCC is going to be presenting the annual community study for Lewis County, which the crew went through and did some phone calls back in October. It takes them a little while to get all the information and analyze all the data. So this is the 11th year, I think, for the Lewis County survey, and they're going to go ahead and present the results of that tomorrow. So that's open to the public if anybody wants to come in and see that. Then following that at 4:15, there's going to be a presentation from somebody from the New York State Veteran Affairs Office is going to be here to talk about some veteran programs and things like that. So that's another thing. If anyone from the public's interested, that will start at 4:15 just before the board meeting at 5. So
absolutely.
Other thing we have on the agenda for tomorrow night's meeting is there'll be a public hearing, and the public hearing is in regards to opening up a portion of County Route 28, which that's in Osceola, I believe, the Liberty Road, and that's to open it up to the snowmobile trail system. So there'll be some public comment on that, and then there's a resolution for the board to approve it.
Almost every month, you got to give credit to Jackie Mahoney, and Jackie runs our Trails and Recreation Department, and Joan McNichol, who's the county attorney. Almost every month, they are working with our Board of Legislators, landowners, snowmobile clubs, ATV clubs to find additional areas where we can expand our trail system. So kudos to them, and get just another portion that we can add to our already extensive system.
Okay, so perfect. So looking through some of the resolutions here, one of the very first resolution, and I did kind of have a question on that because I'm wondering, basically we'll let people know what it is first. The committees, the Republican committees in Gregg and Lionsdale have gone ahead and made a recommendation for Thomas Osborne to fill the vacant seat for District 9, which was held by Rocky Fawcett, who passed away on January 1st. So the seat's been vacant since then. I'm wondering if this is very first in the resolution, if this goes ahead and gets approved by the legislators, will he be joining the meeting tomorrow night, or will this be, because it said effective March 6th, so.
My assumption is that yes, it's an immediate appointment to fill a vacancy. Yes. So once the Board of Legislators has made the resolution and selects this Tom to join them on the Board of Legislators, then that seat will be filled. Okay. And he will be able to hold that seat until the nearest soonest election, which would be this November. Okay. Okay. So I figured that's why it was kind of on the very top before paying bills or anything like that, which is usually very first. So I thought that was so once they go ahead and vote one way or another, if it is approved, he'll go ahead and join the meeting tomorrow night. Okay, perfect. All right. So our next resolution, this has been a hot topic, and we've talked about this a lot over the months, and this is going back a year or so, but going back to our budget even.
Exactly.
Discussion.
It looks like the Courts and Law Committee and then the Human Resources Committee have both approved recommending a addition of an assistant district attorney on a part-time basis, and that would be up to 20 hours a week. So this is something the board will be voting on tomorrow night. So basically it looks like we've made it through the hurdles of getting these out of the committees, and now it's going to be up to the full board to decide whether they approve.
Correct. This is something that the district attorney has been working with the Courts and Law Committee for, as Nick mentioned, quite some time to try to get some assistance for her and their prosecution operation. The Courts and Law Committee decided that a good compromise was to go with a part-time assistant district attorney. So I think they wanted to give the opportunity for the full board to weigh in on the issue rather than it keep staying in committee and going through the same three people again and again. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the Board of Legislators feels about that proposal.
Okay. Staying with some personnel moves here, we have a resolution here for the legislators to approve basically, right now in the planning department, we have a planner who seems to be working outside of her duties a little bit. So basically, the recommendation is to upgrade that position to a senior planner, which comes with a salary increase about $6,000 a year. Basically, that covers her for some of the things that she's doing. And
we ask an awful lot of our planning department, and they do a phenomenal job. Frank Pace is the planning director, and we do have a position that reports to Frank that is a planner. As Nick mentioned, that person is doing a phenomenal job, but we don't like to make personnel decisions based on just a certain individual that holds the position. Really, what we're asking out of that position goes beyond what the planner job description is, and we think senior planner is more appropriate for the type of work that we're asking out of that position.
Okay. And the planner, well, currently, and we'll be doing the same task as senior planner, but kind of oversees the public transportation department is one of the main jobs, as well as assisting Frank with his day-to-day operations.
And we continue to load more and more on Frank's plate, and he continues to be able to handle that within his department, which is wonderful. So the more that they do up there and help us out with, the more that we have to be cautious of how people are working in their civil service class. So
okay, perfect. Okay, that kind of leads us into another project that Frank's been involved with heavily.
Yeah.
Looks like we have the resolution here that's going to be authorizing the RFPs, which is the request for proposal, for architectural, engineering, and construction services for the JCC Educational Center. And I know that we talked, I think it was in one of the committee meetings toward the end of February, that the Jefferson County Board of Legislators wants to approve the MOU, which was recently signed, the understanding agreement between JCC, the county, and all the parties that were involved. So being that Jefferson County foots a portion of the budget for JCC, they just wanted to review all the documentations. I know you said you felt comfortable with going forward with the RFP even before the MOU is approved through the legislator.
Yep, so the Jefferson County Board of Legislators is looking to ratify the memorandum of understanding that we have signed with JCC. I've been in contact with their staff and Board of Legislative members, and I think that everyone still feels very positive about this project, and that we all want to see it go forward. They just have some questions, and I see it very similar to our hospital. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways, they operate on their own.
Right.
But sometimes the Board of Legislators likes to check in and make sure that things are going the way they'd like. So I think that's what's happening in Jefferson County, and that's okay. We want full, broad-based buy-in for this project.
Okay. And you're comfortable with putting out the RFP. Yeah. So this would be for any organization or any firms that are interested in either design, architects, engineering, and it looks like you're bidding the construction at the same time?
No.
Okay.
Any engineer that is going to be involved in designing the project will naturally be involved in the construction of it. That's just how it goes. Okay. So you include that in the RFP, that they're going to be around and about. They don't just hand us the plans and then walk away. They've got to be there to help us when we hit a boulder that wasn't expected or whatever it may be.
And I know we're still on a pretty aggressive timeline with the JCC project. Is there any updates on that? Like, when would you expect the RFPs back? When would you be looking to pick a firm?
I think we're looking to pick a firm hopefully by the April meeting, maybe May. I forget whether we put that out for 4 or 6 weeks. I can't recall. Okay. But once we pick the firm, then we'll have to get really serious about design and programs and really what the facility is going to look and feel like. We've got to get into that in depth with JCC, with BOCES, with Cornell Cooperative Extension, with Jefferson County, to make sure that it is really the vision that is going to fit the needs of the community like we want it to. Then we kick off construction shortly after that, and we'd love to see it open in the fall. I think that's optimistic. Right. I think a more realistic target would be that the facility is open and ready to serve the community for the second semester, which would start in January of 2019.
So spring of 2019.
Spring of 2019.
Okay. Yep. And as far as you do foresee construction would start in this construction season?
Oh, I certainly hope so. Absolutely. Yeah, that is the goal. Yeah.
All right, perfect. The next topic that we have here is a resolution where it looks like the county was awarded some funding for indigent legal services, and this was a $56,964 grant. So we just wanted to ask a little bit about, this was in addition to their regular budgeted items, and you were going to explain a little bit about what they could use the money for and how this is on top of what they were already budgeted for.
So we've been quite successful in the Public Defender's Office with receiving grants from New York State for to help support our operations. This grant in particular is not necessarily for operations or day-to-day expenses. It's more for expenses that go outside of the day-to-day operation. So if there's reopening of old cases, this could help the Public Defender's Office fund that. If there's a DWI crackdown weekend and we've got, all of a sudden, 20 defendants, this money could be tapped into for things like that. So it's kind of a special fund for when the needs go beyond that, our regular budget and day-to-day things.
And it looks like just overall improving the quality of the indigent legal services that are provided through the organization. So. All right. Next we have, this is always a fun one when we talk about the state. This is a resolution opposing Governor Cuomo's proposal contained in his 2018 budget review bill to change the law regarding taxation of state forest preserve lands from current locally assessed system to a payment in lieu of taxes, a pilot system. Basically, this is taking the state properties off the tax rolls and putting them into pilots. So. I know Real Property had a little bit to say about this at the meeting and at the committee meeting, and I think encourage you guys to come up with a resolution opposing it because there's a lot of state forest land in Lewis County.
Yeah,
so
there is quite a bit, and I think you're going to see Adirondack communities, and the governor's proposal applies to the Adirondack Park and also applies to some land in the Catskills region. So I think you're going to see those communities step up and push back on this a little bit. Essentially, as you said, Nick, the proposal takes state-controlled land, state-owned land, which they do pay taxes on, by the way, and pull those off the tax rolls and put them onto a separate pilot. Now, that alone isn't terrible, although it is scary to think that we're going to lose control over the assessment. So, that we're not exactly comfortable with, but that's not the tough part. The tough part is that the proposal also says that these pilots will be capped at a 2% per year increase. Okay. So, as you are aware, a lot of this Adirondack Park land, and really anybody's land, when times are good and the economy is doing well, and even when it's not, this land is increasing in value, often more than 2% a year.
Right.
So in the long run, it's going to be pulled from the rolls and then capped at 2% per year increase. That will start to hit our budget, and especially our towns and villages. So it's something that we would like to see the state think a little bit more about and how it'll impact the rural communities before they go forward with it. So at this time, we're not in favor of the governor's proposal.
Okay.
Well, I should say the resolution is not in favor of the governor's proposal. We'll see if the board approves
it or not. Yep.
I think that they will.
Yes. All right. And just thought it was important to bring up the fact that as long as this gets approved by the board and ratified, the road patrol at the sheriff's department has been working without a contract since the end of 2015.
Yep.
It looks like the sides have finally come together and agreed on a contract. I know the union has voted approving the contract.
Correct.
So now you have a ratified version that'll be presented to the board tomorrow night, and I think the feeling is that we expect that they're on board with it too. Obviously, they were involved in the negotiations. So. Yep.
I would just you said it exactly right, Nick. I would just add that our kudos to Chris and Joan, the county HR director and county attorney. Excuse me. As well as the union members representing the road patrol, because they've come together and hammered out something that's fair and that both sides can agree on.
All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up the major resolutions that we picked out. Obviously, there's always a lot of housekeeping and just general things that come up on a monthly basis. But again, tomorrow night's meeting, Tuesday, March 6th, starts at 5 p.m. There's a couple things going on beforehand. 3:30 is your community survey from JCC presentation, and then at 4:15 is the Veterans Affairs presentation. So anyone that wants to come out is more than welcome to join us here at the courthouse at 5 p.m. tomorrow night. Thanks again, Ryan. We always appreciate our monthly chat.
Absolutely.